You know, the hardest part about continuing a video game series, making games after games for it, is that you have to make it fresh and new with every game you put out, because if you do the same thing again and again, then there isn't anything to be excited about. But at the same time, when you change the formula, fans of the series will feel quote-unquote betrayed. The situation for Oddworld Inhabitants is a double side of the coin for disaster, because A, there are fans of the Oddworld series that just wants nothing but Abe saving Mudokons all the time, and B, the gaming audience who doesn't think much of the series lost interest because they're tired of saving Mudokons all the time, and that reason alone is the reason why not that many people, except for the hardcore, remembers the Oddworld series. I like to remind everyone that the whole point of the Oddworld Quintology was to create a fascinating interactive world, and Lauren Lanning, Sharon McKenna, and everybody else who worked in Oddworld Inhabitants did a fucking fantastic job in giving us a series that is so unique and original. They introduced the gaming world, visuals that only Hollywood could provide at the time, brilliant and challenging gameplay, and the innovative game speed controls where we can command and interact with non-playable characters. Almost everybody I know forgotten about that, and I seem to be the only one reminding everybody the importance Oddworld Inhabitants has given us. But as I stated earlier, it's hard to keep it fresh because it's similar to juggling and magic tricks. It's so amazing to see somebody do it, but if they continue doing it again and again for hours or many days, you lose interest. And that in itself won't help the business. And for Oddworld Inhabitants situation, they weren't $1 million company that had the Oddworld ownership that could help them make merchandise. Despite how many critics in the press hyped up the artistry of the series back then, they've been in financial crisis and been stuck in delays. Oddworld Inhabitants' duty was to create and expand a unique video game universe, and already in 3 games, we're still saving Mudokons. And just being exposed to the same fictional creatures for this long won't expand the Oddworld universe at all. And for that reason alone is why Oddworld Munch's Exodus was cancelled. This is just my theory of the next upcoming Oddworld game, because still to this day, Oddworld Inhabitants never explain why our next game doesn't have Abe or any Mudokons, which is pretty much a good thing. I'm happy for them that they're moving on to a different character, a different story, and even a different experience in the Oddworld universe. And I apologize for taking so long and actually finishing part 3 of the Oddworld Quintology, but finding research on Munch's Odyssey was hard enough, but that's nothing compared to finding any research for the next game. And nobody in Oddworld Inhabitants said anything about their decision in changing the main character. But regardless, we must finish part 3 of the Oddworld Quintology. It has been 4 long years since there was an Oddworld game, and despite that Munch's Odyssey sold well, but didn't get the same critical acclaim that Oddworld Inhabitants was hoping for, it was time to start something new. Something that will expand the Oddworld universe in ways that has never been done before. The gaming industry changed a lot from cute platformer characters to be appealing, and now the main appeal in gaming is badass action characters. It was Oddworld Inhabitants to make a character that is the total opposite of Abe, where he was an innocent, helpful, cowardly, and dependent character, into a badass, quiet, and unmerciful character. In 2005, Oddworld Inhabitants has released Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, exclusively on the Xbox. Oddworld Inhabitants still remain on the Xbox, but my biggest issue I have with this game was the game's publisher. Was a mystery to see why Oddworld Inhabitants went to EA to publish their games, because if you're working with EA, you're making a deal with the devil. They have the power to take control of the developer's creativity and make them sell out. And if you commercially fail in selling a game published by them, they have the power to shut your company down and make you stop making any more games. That's something that another one of my favorite video game companies, Insomniac Games, should never have done. So with the case of Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, did they ruin the Oddworld experience? Well, to be honest, this is one of those exceptions where EA doesn't take any creative control, and the developers still have their vision and creative control when making this game. But we'll get back to EA at the end of this review. Without further ado, let's talk about Stranger's Wrath. Let's start out with our new main character of the series, Stranger. So who is Stranger? Stranger is a lone bounty hunter catching various outlaws and criminals trying to raise money for a mysterious operation. I gotta say that this dude is one badass motherfucker because, unlike Abe, Stranger is an unstoppable hunter who can search and capture his target in any means necessary and kills anyone who messes with him or stands in his way. You know that appeal that you get when watching any movie starring Clint Eastwood? You get that similar feeling with Stranger. He knows how to handle any situation, he uses anything he can find and use it as a helpful tool, he's very fast and agile, tough as an ox, and he can even leap like a cheetah. With this kind of character that hunts down any kind of creature that we've never seen before, this gives the perfect opportunity in expanding the Oddworld universe at a great degree. The story opens up with our hero, or anti-hero for that matter, Stranger, doing his job as a bounty hunter. For the first hour, you'll be seeing Stranger doing what he does best. The story really starts to pick up when he hears a story about a town of creatures called the Grubs that is being tormented by a demon. The town used to be protected by a race of creatures called the Steef, but they are extinct. When Stranger arrives in town, he discovers a dam which was built by a person named Secto, and the dam itself dried up the river near the town. It is revealed that Secto is responsible for the extinction of the Steef, and he's offering a bounty for the Steef, believing that there are still few around. He also believes that Stranger knows where the Steefs are hiding, so he hires a couple of outlaws to capture Stranger and interrogate him. From there on out, you guys see the story yourself, because there are plenty of surprises, top-notch action, and a lot of comedy. One thing that's so unique about Stranger's Wrath is that out of all the Oddworld games that has ever been made, this one is the most action-packed. When you play as Abe, you can only mind control your enemies and use them to solve puzzles, and it was not until Munch's Odyssey where Abe could finally attack. But we all remember how much it sucked ass to bitch slap as your only attack.
You're telling me that I have to play the game like this?
Here playing as Stranger, the combat is more than just improved. It's extremely creative and ingenious that it would take me half of the review to explain it. Let me first explain what you'll be doing in this very game. As a bounty hunter, Stranger will have to find bounties and warrants to know what he'll be hunting down. You can find an assignment in a bounty store in order to begin your mission in hunting down these outlaws for moolahs, which is the cash in Oddworld. Once you meet up with the banker in the bounty store, you'll talk to him to choose your next bounty, and he'll tell you who and where is your next target. But not only you can get missions from the bounty store, but also you can get side missions from other parts of the town that can also help you earn moolahs. Collecting moolahs will help you progress through the game because you need to gain some upgrades from the difficult challenge that awaits. You can collect moolahs from attacking civilians, breakable objects, lying ones on the ground, and collecting unconscious outlaws. And you can use moolahs to buy upgrades, ammo, armor, and more. These items that you can buy are mighty expensive, so you better do all you can to collect these moolahs. Once you choose your assignment, that's where you have to get to your location on the map to track down your bounty. And this is where the gameplay really starts to shine. As you go after the bounty, you'll be exploring all sorts of landscapes built for brilliant level designs where you'll be solving puzzles and even platform, which still remains that nostalgic feel from the previous Oddworld games. You have the ability to double jump, leap like a cheetah, and so much more. I stated before that the combat here is incredibly unique because you can switch to a third-person action game or a first-person shooter. Now, I have my grudge for first-person shooters in the past because they are so incredibly uncreative, uninventive, and all the stuff that you can do like backflips and all those cool combos, it can't be possibly done well in first person. But here it's a major exception because having the ability to switch from third person to first person balances the game out. But also the way they use their shooting mechanics is very different. Stranger carries a crossbow-like gun that can only be used in first person, and this crossbow doesn't shoot out arrows or bullets, it shoots out small creatures that can fit in that gun. You can find any critter wherever you go, and all you have to do is shoot at them to take them off guard so you can catch them and put them in your ammo inventory. Each critter has their own power and capability that helps changes your strategy in taking your enemies out. Here are the critters that can be used as ammo. You have the Fuzzles, the same creatures from Munch's Odyssey where Munch had the rescue, that deliberately attack foes once fired at them. You got the Chippunks, that distracts enemies when they're not aware of your presence. Swarmers, that are these bee-like critters that gets enemies off guard. Boom Bats, that causes explosions when fired, and so much more. Each critter has a unique upgrade that can be obtained for even more firepower and dynamic offensive abilities. Additionally, players can experiment with different combinations of critters that will have various effects, so the number of offensive options are quite large. Another cool thing about the live ammo is that you can see the critter on your gun to know what you're going to shoot, and they have full animation, and some will even talk to stranger as the game goes on, making for some very entertaining situations. But be aware that shooting your enemies mindlessly won't get you anywhere, because these enemies you have to face are very vicious that if you get ganged up by these outlaws, there is no chance to survive. So that means calls for changing tactics and strategy in capturing your bounty becomes mandatory. Another unique thing about Stranger's Wrath is that you can actually do stealth. Being in stealth, you can do so much to take out your enemies, such as putting out traps, set the Chippunks as decoy distraction, and or just simply give them a sneak attack as long as you're not seen. You can hide in bushes and give them a sneak attack, but do so wisely, or else you can no longer do stealth once caught. The enemy AI is very intelligent where they become aware if there are some thugs missing, or if there's a loud sound that will alarm everybody in the area. There is also the ability to flat out kill your enemies or capture them alive. While each bounty will allow players to determine whether they bring their targets back dead or alive, the award system in place does promote a live capture over a kill by offering a high reward for bounties brought back alive. Successfully obtaining a live capture is more difficult than just killing an enemy because much more stealth will be acquired to sneak up and knock out your enemy than just shooting at them with the crossbow. But it's so rewarding to capture your enemies alive because it will give you more moolahs, and those upgrades that you want to buy are mad expensive. All you have to do is to knock them down with a melee attack or a non-deadly creature to shoot at them, and once they're down, you can summon a vacuum cleaner to suck them in, and once you return to the bounty store, it multiplies your payment the more you captured. See how rewarding it is to capture enemies alive? And that's something that I don't see other video games since and after that does quite well as Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. But for some reason, capturing enemies reminds me of rescuing Mudokons from the previous Oddworld games. As challenging as the game is, you still have a lot of advantages to overcome these obstacles and dangers that lie ahead because you can automatically restore yourself with the press of a button, as long as you have enough stamina below the health bar as Stranger pounds his chest. Well, keep in mind that you can only summon your weapon when you leave town because they confiscate your weapon to keep the town safe from harm. When you're in town, you can just interact with NPCs, toy around with the mechanics, buy stuff, and search for secrets, which becomes very addictive once you pick up this game. As you interact with these NPCs, you start to notice how lively they are. You can talk or ask questions, and they can respond in a rational manner depending on whom you're talking to. Attacking them will get everyone running away to hide in buildings, but no authorities will try to stop you like in traditional sandbox games. Nearly every character you encounter has a lot of sense of humor that you just can't help but to listen to them speak and laugh. Not to mention watching those cutscenes are entertaining as hell. As much as I really like to toy around with the environment, I start to begin to realize how much more lively this installment of the Oddworld series has become. I gotta say that this is one of the most beautiful looking games that I've ever seen, and I'm glad that the charm was not diminished with the Oddworld feel that you get from the previous Oddworld games compared to the other sequels that tries to be too different from its original. Not once did the environment or level designs felt like it came from another series. All the backgrounds and that special atmosphere that has been seen in Abe's Odyssey and Exodus are brought back to 3D in its full glory. It's absolutely breathtaking and mesmerizing to glance at every single level design, and that's something that Oddworld Inhabitants does very well with the series. Words cannot describe how much of an improvement Stranger's Wrath is compared to the previous game, Munch's Odyssey. The camera control is at the right place and it works functionally. The combat and action scenes are so much more fun. Deciding how to take down your enemies is challenging. The character interaction is very interactive. The platforming and jumping mechanics is heavily improved. The variety is varied. The character AI is at the best that the series has ever been. The comedy was hilarious as ever, and the atmosphere was breathtaking than ever. Not to mention that this game is very addictive to play because you got plenty of bounties to choose to take out, and not to mention you have so many hours of gameplay from beginning to end. This is definitely a worthy installment of the Oddworld Quintology, and it's a darn shame that there are still old school fans that doesn't realize its full potential with Stranger's Wrath that just simply hates the game because it doesn't have Abe. I know we all love Abe, but Munch's Odyssey proved that there's no point in continuing his story now that Oddworld inhabitants are now making games in full 3D. Having Stranger as our newest character with a brand new adventure simply expanded the Oddworld universe, probably more so than the previous 3 games combined. It's the perfect combination of an open world, action 3D platformer shooter, stealth game, and it works so goddamn well. All of these are the reasons why I give Oddworld Stranger's Wrath a 6 fingers out of 5. There's so much more to discuss about Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, but I can't say any more of it because there's so much surprises in this game that I can't spoil one frame of it. It's so much better than Munch's Odyssey in every way, a little better than Abe's Odyssey, but not quite better than Abe's Exodus. So, out of the 4 games, Stranger's Wrath is, in my personal opinion, the second best Oddworld game in the whole Oddworld Quintology. I learned so much more with this game about the universe, and I wanted to see more of it because it's so goddamn fascinating. But unfortunately, this is the final installment of the Oddworld Quintology, and it's a darn shame because Oddworld inhabitants redeemed themselves with Stranger's Wrath, proving that they can make a masterpiece in 3D. The biggest problem was because Oddworld Stranger's Wrath wasn't hyped up as to other games that came out in 2005, and for that reason alone, the game didn't sell well. The reason why this review took me over a year to make is because I researched everywhere of why this game commercially failed, despite the fact that Stranger's Wrath got a lot of positive feedback from critics. And finally, I found a reason why this game failed, and why Oddworld inhabitants haven't released another game since. Lauren Lanning, the founder of the company and the series, blames EA for sabotage. This is no joke. He bashed EA, saying that the game's adequate sales numbers were due to the crappy job the publishers did with the marketing. He said, and I quote, "I am thrilled that EA did such a crappy job distributing it back in the day. It's a title that hasn't been exposed to the world. My personal feeling was Stranger's Wrath was the best game we've ever made. EA sabotaged Stranger's Wrath by giving it no marketing budget. Once Oddworld inhabitants learned this fact, it killed the company's prospects for the title and its interest in working with EA any further." End quote. You know, after reading that article in escapistmagazine.com, I gained so much more respect for Lauren Lanning because he's finally a developer that cursed out EA as corporate assholes that they always were. Why did Oddworld inhabitants made Electronic Arts as their publisher? I will never know, but the consequences of selling yourself to the devil damaged the company at a great degree. To me, EA has always been the worst company, and I always feel that having this company around is the ultimate flaw with the gaming industry as a whole. How could one publishing company could publish one game and somehow have the power to let the company live or die? The reason why I loathe Electronic Arts with a great passion is that they love to destroy developers' dreams in making games and destroy great opportunities for the sake of making more and more money the wrong way. It's bad enough that you guys made a terrible ending in Mass Effect 3. It's bad enough that you guys bought the NFL license, ruining football games entirely. It's already bad enough that Ultima 9 had to suffer from your stupid decisions. It's bad enough that System Shock 2 failed in sales and we're never going to see a System Shock 3. And it's already bad enough that you put Pandemic out of business. But seeing that it's EA's fault for destroying Oddworld inhabitants is simply unforgivable. Oddworld Inhabitants is probably the only video game company that offered me originality and a brand new experience that I demand from every developer. And now, since they're no longer making any more games, it just makes being anticipated for a new game to feel not as exciting as the old days, when variety was everywhere. Now, it sounds like this review is going to end in a sad note after all these years of working hard in the Oddworld Quintology series, but there is still hope. Recently, Oddworld Inhabitants is slowly growing by coming back to the gaming industry by re-releasing the old Oddworld games on the Oddbox, and they're all available on the PlayStation 3's PlayStation Store. All those Oddworld games that were on the Xbox, they're now available to the PlayStation Store, available to anyone who owns a Sony console. And it should be on the PlayStation 3 because many of the original Oddworld fans became a fan of the series, started all the way back in the PlayStation 1, And having Oddworld Quintology to jump shift to the Xbox was an unsatisfying decision as a fan of the Oddworld series. As I close the Oddworld Quintology series review, I just want to say that this is pretty much one of my favorite video game series of all time. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, Munch's Odyssey, and Stranger's Wrath are available on the PlayStation Store, Steam, and anywhere else that you could find on the internet to play on your personal computer. And I'm begging everybody who's watching this video to give Oddworld a chance. Not just one of the games, I'm talking about all the games in the series a chance, because they're definitely worth your while. And with more support, we can probably see other projects that Oddworld Inhabitants was working on, like their first movie, Oddworld Citizen Siege, and that cancelled real-time strategy game Oddworld Hand of Odd to finally be finished and released. Or hell, another Oddworld game where we might see Stranger to have a crossover with Abe and Munch. Now that's something I would pay money to see. Whatever the case, I still have a lot of faith with Oddworld Inhabitants to give us something unique that no other video game company would dare to do. As we're finishing this review, I have to say that revisiting the whole Oddworld Quintology was one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had, and it's a series that I like to do a marathon once a year, along with Ratchet & Clank and Jak and Daxter. I hope to you guys that this series review was worth the wait, and while you're here on our site, join our forums and tell us what you think about the Oddworld Quintology series review, and check out all of our exclusive videos and reviews on itstale.time.net. I'm so happy to finish reviewing the Oddworld Quintology as a whole, even though I have so many questions that I've never gotten answered, but it was definitely a magical experience. But it's definitely worth reviewing all the games of the series just to give you guys a better view of the entire Oddworld Quintology. Since you guys have been very patient, here is my preview of my next video review.